Namaskar, welcome to Honest Astrologer YouTube channel, and today I have Shraddha with me to discuss a very important topic, which is Rahu and Rahu Mahadasha. And it was her idea to make a video around this. So thank you, Shraddha. Thank you so much for taking out time and doing this. Welcome to the channel. It's all yours.
Namaskar, sir. Thank you so much for having me. The fact that I am going through Mahadasha myself, and I have been definitely following all your articles, it will be of great help to a lot of people going through this Mahadasha because a lot has been said and understood and misunderstood about it. So I think we can start from there.
Yeah. So first thing, what is Mahadasha? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mahadasha is a time when your life is absolutely ruled and dominated by one particular planet, which is the Mahadasha Lord. Okay.
Yep.
Most people run to astrologers in a Rahu Ketu or a Shani Mahadasha. Other planets are not that difficult.
Yep.
Now, what happens is during the Mahadasha, you start to think, look, act, and behave like the Mahadasha Lord. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in Rahu Mahadasha, people start to think, look, act, and behave like Rahu. Okay.
Yep.
And what is Rahu? What are his good and bad sides? What happens in this Mahadasha and how to act out of it? We'll talk about these things. Okay.
Sure, sir.
So first thing that we need to know is what is Rahu.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll quickly give you a mythological recap of this story. So at the time of Amrit Manthan, the pot of Amrit came out and there was this big war between Danavs and Devtas. Of course, both wanted Amrit. So there was this celestial gang war, and looking at the destruction, Lord Vishnu decided to interfere. He
Mm-hmm.
came out in Mohini avatar, and Mohini was the most beautiful woman in the universe. Okay. And so everybody was stunned and enamored, and she said, okay, I'll sort this out for you.
Yep.
Devta should sit on one side, Danav should sit on other side. I'll do the distribution for both of you.
Mm.
So everybody was so enamored, they kept looking at her face, and what Mohini did was distribute poison to the Danavs and Amrit to the Devatas. And Danavs were typically very baser instinct beings. So they kept ogling at her, and she very smartly switched the Amrit wala thing with a poisonous thing and gave it to them. There was only one very smart Danav who was able to maintain his focus,
Mm-hmm.
and he could make out what's going on. So he decided, okay, I can't stop it, but let me take advantage of it. He switched his sides and sat in the side of the Devata and
Mm-hmm.
managed to get a drop of Amrit. It is said sun and moon were able to see that, and they indicated to Mohini that boss, something has gone wrong.
Yeah.
So Mohini suddenly used that Sudarshan Chakra and beheaded Swarbhanu. But by then he had swallowed a drop of Amrit, so he had become immortal.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to accommodate this, what had happened, and in order to reward him for his focus and hustle, remember these two words will come again and again about Rahu: focus and
Mm.
hustle. Okay.
Mm.
Lord Vishnu and Brahma, they rewarded him as the status of Graha, and Ketu also became a Graha, but Ketu became all heart, no head. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Ketu became a sannyasi. Rahu became all head, no heart,
Yep.
and a lot of greed. Okay,
Mm.
because Ketu people, you will find them, I don't need anything in life. Okay, Ketu Mahadasha people are least interested in the world. Rahu wants the world because Rahu is a head without a torso. He can eat everything and still not be satisfied. So there is
Ask
a
me about it.
general feeling of dissatisfaction in Rahu period. Rahu is the karaka of greed, okay,
Mm-hmm.
of ego,
Mm.
of hustle, of focus.
Mm.
So one thing you have to remember, there is this general tendency saying that Rahu hates sun and moon. That's
Yep.
partially true. Rahu hates the moon, but
Mm-hmm.
Rahu likes the sun. So sun is his role model. राहु को सन बनने का है. Okay.
Okay.
पॉलिटिशियन राजा बनना चाहता है.
Hmm.
उसको पता अंदर से मैं गैंगस्टर पॉलिटिशियन हूं, पर वो साबित करने में लगा रहेगा मैं बादशाह हूं.
Right.
You will find a very heavy Rahu in charts of most politicians.
Hmm.
Typically a sun Rahu or a moon Rahu. Now, there is a lot of bad things associated with Rahu. Okay. So, first we'll talk about uh, all that is wrong with him. Okay. Then
Okay.
we'll talk about the good side of Rahu.
Right.
So far, any questions?
No, sir. This
No.
is pretty clear.
Great. So, Rahu, I say we are not fair to Rahu, Ketu and Shani. We have just created fear mongering around it. ये तो खराब
Yeah.
ही हैं, and
Mm-hmm.
So, but they have their own beauty and their own power, and these three are very powerful in Kali Yuga.
Yep.
So Rahu is, like I said, is a gangster politician in the essence. So Rahu is a very greedy planet. Uska pet nahi bharta. He can eat everything.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that movie KGF?
Yes.
Yeah. There is this. The hero is like 10-year-old kid, and he beats up a policeman.
Yep.
And the guy next to him says, "Kya chahiye tere ko?" And he says, "Dunya." That's Rahu.
Yeah.
Rahu wants the world. Uska pet nahi bharta. So
Mm-hmm.
wherever Rahu sits in your chart, you are very obsessive about that thing. Okay.
Very interesting. Mm-hmm.
So it can be so. If you have a second house Rahu, you can be very greedy about money. If it's a 10th house Rahu, you can be very strong about your career, so on and so forth. Second thing, Rahu is the planet of illusion. Okay.
Yeah.
So that story of Rahu will refer to it again and again. The illusion and under illusion. That CIA KGB game was going on between Rahu and Mohini.
Mm-hmm.
It started with Mohini, ended with Rahu. So there is a lot of illusion in Rahu Kadasha. You will get so many mental images, mental pictures that you are perpetually confused.
Very true. Very true.
So Rahu people, they have so many things going on. Cut, this. वो permutation combination चलते रहते हैं, and that creates conflict and fear. And
Yeah, and I
Rahu is
think
the
the
karaka of fear.
the decision making capacity also, um, it's somewhere hampered because of the confusion. You're always so confused. You're not able to you're not decisive.
Because Rahu will throw a lot of smoke screens. Okay,
Yeah.
how to handle that, will come to that.
Yeah.
Another thing Rahu rules is gambling, the stock market. सारे 2 number के धंधे Rahu rules from. Okay. And Rahu is the karaka of chaos. Okay, so if Shani is the Batman, Rahu is the Joker. And I'm firmly in the Joker team.
Yeah, you are.
So Rahu is the karaka of chaos. Whenever things are going very, very straight or very rigid, Rahu will come and create chaos. At times for good, at times for bad. Okay. Then cheating, lies, deceit, all this, all that. So the most Rahu character I can ever think of is Shakuni from Mahabharata.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So that is why I tell people, when you have Mangal Rahu, it's like Duryodhan and Shakuni together.
Oh my God.
Okay. Or Sun Rahu is Dhritarashtra and Shakuni.
Okay.
You need to remember that. And of course, Rahu is the karaka of politics. Okay. Rahu is a gangster who wants to become a king. How do you do it? Politics.
True.
I've seen some people in business. Because Sun would not go out and beg for votes. Never.
Too
only Rahu who will do. Unless Sun is affected by Rahu, you can't be in politics.
Got it. Yeah, I think that some people are too egoistic to go and ask for something.
Even if they are in politics, they won't get on their knees. One example is Balasaheb Thackeray, Sun in the first. पार्षद का चुनाव नहीं लड़ा उस आदमी ने. He could have easily been a chief minister. He never took any seat. He ran his party like his kingdom.
Correct.
So Sun is very relaxed in whatever he is. So that's why you'll find businessmen, because that is absolute control.
Right.
Yeah, politicians को हर 5 साल बाद झोली फैला के जाना पड़ता. Sun झोली नहीं फैलाता. Rahu will kiss babies and ask for votes and give freebies. Sun won't do all that. But
Rahu is manipulative. Yeah.
भाई राहु को अंदर से पता नहीं यार मैं हूं नहीं, मुझे दिखाना है मैं हूं. Sun को पता मैं हूं, is very very convinced. He doesn't have to prove anything.
Absolutely.
Of course, corruption is a very Rahu phenomena.
Mm.
Bureaucracy is Shani, but politics and corruption is Rahu. And of course, criminals and underworld are ruled by Rahu. Rahu is the eternal rebel. Okay.
Yep.
So there are good kind of rebels, there are bad kind of rebels. So there are revolutionaries, which are ruled by Rahu, and there are criminals and terrorists, which are ruled by Rahu. So, they say one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, but both
Yeah.
of them fall under the Rahu category.
Got it.
Okay. Then, yes, they can be very phony. Rahu belongs to the fake it till you make it thing. क्योंकि वो बंदा ही fake है, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is not the sun, he has to become sun. And the hint
Mm-hmm.
is in the name Swar Bhanu. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Sun
Right.
is Bhanu. उसको
Mm.
स्वर नहीं चाहिए. People know this Bhanu. He has arrived. Rahu
Mm.
has to use a lot of voice to prove कि भाई I am Bhanu.
Got it.
उसको रोला बहुत डालना.
Mm.
दानव हृदय सम्राट Rahu Baba. He has to prove himself. That's the Rahu problem.
Yeah.
You will very seldom find Rahu in the first people getting along with other people. Sun in the first would be ridiculously popular.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Despite their ego, because Sun tries to be the benevolent king. Rahu in first
Right.
is the dictator. But यहाँ तक हमने राहु के लिए बुरी बातें कही and we have maligned him, but he has a higher side. He has a very, very powerful and divine side, which is often ignored. Number one thing, in today's day and age, the superpower a normal human being can have is focus. Yeah. Every 10
Yeah.
seconds, your WhatsApp goes beep, beep, beep.
Exactly.
All those Facebook and YouTube algorithms being thrown to you. So if you want to study for half an hour, you will look at your phone for at least 3-4 times.
Correct.
So Rahu is the planet of focus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bhai, Mohini is pretty and everything, but I want Amrit before
Yeah.
Mohini. So if you want to focus and succeed on something, Rahu is your man.
Mm.
Rahu is the badass planet. He's a hustler. I'll try to put it in very politically acceptable terms.
Mm-hmm.
Business over pleasure. That's Rahu.
Absolutely.
Okay. So anybody who has good focus, you will find a good Rahu in their charts. I've seen a lot of
Mm.
engineers, accountants with the first house Rahu.
Okay.
Then the research work. Okay, all the research, that is Rahu. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we say everything under the sun, fair enough. But what is under the ground, even sun cannot find out. That is when you need Rahu.
Yep.
The hidden things which people don't know about. A lot of scientists, particularly Albert Einstein, he had 8th house Rahu. I have 8th house Rahu. You have seen me doing all sorts of research on weird things. I enjoy that. Okay. Then the most beautiful aspect of Rahu is the underdog.
Mm.
Somebody who is fighting the system. Somebody who is out to destroy the powers that be. Okay, we always root for these guys,
Right.
Rahu is one planet which goes after what he wants. उसके पास में resources हो नहीं हो, he will try his very best to achieve something.
It's an obsessive tendency also.
Yeah, so with a lot of hackers, you will find a very strong Rahu, and many of
Yeah.
them are ethical hackers. But you need that Rahu energy and hustle in order to hack. So that is a typical Rahu thing. Young man in his shorts sitting somewhere trying to fight off the firewall of a government agency. That's Rahu.
Yep.
Okay. The people who come out of garages and create empires which wipe out big corporations. That's Rahu. Rahu ka ultimate symbol is the ninja. Okay.
Okay.
If you know the story of ninja, so it's a study of Rahu. Ninja were the Japanese warriors. So when the Japanese feudal lords, let's say Sun, okay, they became very arrogant and exploitative because they were guarded by the samurai. So samurai is Shani Mangal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very disciplined, very strong, very ethical. So they oppressed the poor people. So when sun goes corrupt, Rahu has to enter. They wouldn't allow them to keep even simple weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Samurais will have all those katana swords and everything. These
Mm,
poor peasants, they had nothing. So
mm,
they created their own version of uh, weapons using simple hasiya, hathoda, things like that,
yeah.
And they would cover themselves in all black and typically attack the samurai in the night. Mara todo podo bhago. That's a Rahu thing.
Mm,
Okay.
right.
And their biggest weapon was deception. They would say ninjas can become invisible. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't become invisible actually. So I've seen a documentary on that when I was
Mm-hmm.
doing my Rahu research, by the way.
Wow.
So what ninjas would do, they'll go to a palace, somebody will become a cook, somebody will become a gardener, and when the night comes, they will all put some black mask around their face, and then they would attack, and they would be yellow kahan se aa gaya? Okay.
Mm,
So that's how Rahu functions. And remember, all the progress that we have made has been made because of Rahu. Okay.
mm.
Rahu is the other sun, which is the number one thing the other sun of you see in the world, light bulb.
Yep.
Otherwise, we would be living perpetually in the dark.
Mm,
Electricity is a Rahu thing. All technology is a Rahu thing. Okay. All
yeah.
that coding is a Rahu thing.
Yeah.
And Rahu is the freedom. He doesn't want to bow down to the system and powers that be.
Mm,
भगवान विष्णु की नाक के नीचे अगला गेम कर गया. You have to respect that hustle.
absolutely.
And one of the Rahu gifts is one democracy. We would rather have corrupt politicians than have North Korea kind of a government.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that he gave the world is the internet.
I was
And
just
now you
coming to
see
that.
those 19-year-old bachas making millions, and those college dropouts creating companies worth billions. वो जो सारा
Absolutely.
traditional structure है, they have demolished it. So that's
Yep.
very Rahu energy. So that's the good side of Rahu. Okay. So any questions?
No questions, sir. I think just to add is that we all need to understand whether it's Rahu, Ketu, Shani, because these are so popularly tagged as just being malefic. I think what we need to understand is they also create a great amount of balance in our charts. Like
Yes.
you cannot just expect the so-called benefic planets only to be doing the good things. There are many times that even these malefics bless you in a way that probably even the benefics will not be able to. They give you so much, whether it's knowledge, experience, or something. So I think by the comparison that you did, it really brings that to light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what Shani and Rahu Ketu give, other planets cannot give put together.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, some of the most powerful and richest people you will find very strong Shani Rahu. And Ketu to give the moksha, bhai.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the ultimate gift. No other planet can give that. Now let's go to Rahu Mahadasha. So, Shraddha, what has been your experience? So, give us a gist of it and then we'll start.
So when I decided to do this video with you, I actually went back to recalling my life ever from the start when the Rahu Mahadasha started. So for me, Mahadasha started approximately in the start of 2009. And I actually did an analysis with the whole aspect of Mahadasha and the Antardasha. And whatever you've written in your article on Rahu Mahadasha in honestastrologer.com, I can tell you that like it was 80 to 85% of exactly what I've experienced. So I've had a roller coaster ride. I've had my times where I have gained a lot. I have gained a lot professionally. I've gained financially, etc. There have been times where, especially mentioning, which I'm sure you'll come to, Rahu Mahadasha and Ketu Andardasha, one of the most difficult phases of my life. Again, Rahu Mahadasha, Saturn Antardasha,
Oh,
one of the most difficult. And
very difficult.
when you are done with all of it, you will cry, then you will sob, you will question God as to why is this happening to me. Once you've passed that phase, right, you will understand how knowledgeable you've become. You
Yeah.
will understand the real meaning of life. I was never so religious and spiritual in my entire life as I became ever since Rahu Saturn started for me.
Yeah.
And in Rahu, like when it was Rahu Mahadasha, Ketu Antardasha, I got in all the more into it. So I completely understand the difficulties which came with it, but eventually the gifts that it gives you, which you realize only after the difficult part is over, because you're so sad or miserable in those difficult parts that you have to be at a very different level to understand that, okay, this is liberation. It's much later that you understand that,
Yeah.
it's gifted you a lot of knowledge to be able to maneuver your life ahead in a much more practical and sensible way. So that's what my journey has been so far.
Yeah.
Right now, running Rahu Mahadasha, Shukra Antardasha, Venus Antardasha, so no complaints right now.
Good
I
for
think,
you. Yeah.
yeah, other things to come further.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great. So first thing, my pet dialogue is Rahu तुमको picture दिखाएगा. Okay.
absolutely.
Rahu starts with illusion. Rahu Mahadasha is the palace of illusions. Okay.
Yeah.
The proverbial palace of illusions. एक के बाद एक पिक्चर आती रहती है, कभी हॉरर मूवी, कभी रोमांस मूवी, कभी ड्रामा मूवी, बट Rahu continues to throw its fair share of illusions at you. Okay.
Absolutely.
One difference between Ketu and Rahu is that Ketu doesn't play favorite. Almost everybody gets hammered in Ketu.
Mm.
Makar Lagna, Kumbh Lagna, Mesh Lagna, they to get cream in Ketu.
Mm-hmm.
Rahu does play favorites. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Ketu, house placement doesn't matter so much until unless it's like the second house or the 8th house and 12th house. The second house Ketu is brutal. The rest of them, they have a similar story. Rahu placement in the chart can make a lot of difference how your experience of Rahu Mahadasha is. Okay.
Right.
My personal favorite Rahu is a second house Rahu, 11th house Rahu, 10th house Rahu, and 6th house Rahu. But second house is my personal favorite. I'm yet to see a poor man with a second house Rahu. Okay.
Yeah.
Typically silver spoon people.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, a few themes of a Rahu Dasha. Rahu, the first thing that Rahu makes is desperation. Okay. I use this phrase, Rahu truck की बत्ती के पीछे लगा देता है. You see something, you want it, and you run after it. Rahu is the proverbial go-getter.
Yep.
तो क्या चाहिए दुनिया? Okay. And Rahu's favorite weapon is comparison.
Oh, yes.
Okay. You keep comparing yourself to XYZ, whatever.
All the time.
And nowadays, उसको बहुत प्यारा हथियार मिल गया, social media. So you look at Facebook, some friend of yours is traveling France. What you do is you go and take a holiday loan and you book your tickets, and next 10 years you pay the EMI.
Mm.
You go to LinkedIn, you see, oh, ye mera junior tha, he has become the CXO, you leave your job, you jump into something else and later regret it.
Yep.
So that, and you become Rahu Roop, you become Graha Roop in the Mahadasha.
Mm-hmm.
So वो चैन खत्म हो जाता है आदमी को, वो इनर पीस को बहुत जबरदस्त डिस्टर्ब करता है. So you become desperate. Okay. A good idea is to control that energy and keep it focused. We'll come to that. Okay. Second thing what Rahu throws is illusions. Now I want this, now I want this, now I want this, now I want this. If you will go back, जब से Rahu चालू हुआ होगा, you would have been chasing one thing after the other.
Yeah, it's like insatiable because it's just the head, right? Yeah.
So, people I have often seen, they start this breathless chase. Depending upon where Rahu is sitting in, वो journey शुरू हो जाता है. किसी को पैसा चाहिए, किसी को प्यार चाहिए, किसी को career चाहिए, so on and so forth. But there is this non-stop restless chase. Okay. Another thing which I've seen is people become very anti-establishment and rebellious, especially if your bacha is a teenager undergoing a Rahu Dasha. Every day in your house, you will have a revolution. You will have Jindabad, Murdabad, and you will have all sorts of silly things because, all those teenage hormones with Rahu desperation, you have a revolution in the house.
I think I would want to add to that. I think Rahu also, when we say that it's anti, whatever is the norm, it's very different from the norm. So I also feel that, it all seems foreign. So whatever is a norm in your house, norm in your society, norm in your culture, you will some way or the other, not associate yourself with that so much, and you would want to challenge it and question it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Rahu is the challenger, no, the ultimate underdog.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to listen to authority. He doesn't want to follow the rules.
Yeah.
That is why all the criminals are ruled by Rahu. Okay.
Yeah.
It could be a white collar criminal. It could be a blue collar criminal. But any kind of criminal is ruled by Rahu. No crime would be possible until Rahu is included, either a crime of passion or a crime of profit. So rules
Right.
to तोड़ना है उसको. Okay. Now that can be a good kind of rule breaking, like WikiLeaks. Okay. Or it can be a bad kind of rule breaking, like internet scams. So that depends.
Hmm.
उसके बाद one thing which I have seen, particularly if you have a bad Rahu and an afflicted moon, you can get into mental depression and mental illnesses, and some people have reported hauntings.
Yep.
Okay, it can be real, it can be fake haunting, but the pain is real. Okay,
Hmm.
so Rahu impacts your brain. Particularly, this happens in Rahu moon period. So we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But all that desperation and confusion and bechani, that drives you to virtual craziness. Okay.
Right.
Then I've seen there is this fascination with everything dark and dangerous, particularly in Rahu Venus. Okay. People get into debauchery. Okay. I have seen very saintly people book their Bangkok tickets. Okay. Very nice people. I
Absolutely.
have seen people get into extramarital affairs. I have seen Gangor vegetarians eat meat pizzas. So Rahu gets into that taboo breaking mode. Okay, so you have to manage that energy. Otherwise, it is going to make you do every ulta seedha kaam.
And I think so the point to note here is Rahu Venus comes after Rahu Ketu. So
Yeah,
it's complete shift of energy as well. Ketu is a very monk-like planet, and
yeah,
Venus is all about just
luxury and all. Yeah,
luxury. Yeah, I mean you want to extract the pleasure of life. So it's a complete shift.
yes, yes, it's a quantum shift. Another thing which I have seen very strongly in Rahu is marriages.
Yeah.
So people ask me which is the planet of marriage. It is not Venus. It is not Jupiter. It is good old Rahu. Okay. Reason being, in the Vedic times, that used to be a Guru Shukra kind of marriage. Okay. Today's modern marriage is an illusion. The girl thinks the boys will keep me happy. The boy thinks the girl will keep me happy. In the end, they both regret.
I just want to point out over here. So when I've taken the first consultation with you, this is what you told me, and it really stayed with me so much. And I was like, he's actually right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have seen this. I got married in a Rahu period. No other period could have gotten me married.
Right.
Yeah. So I've seen 60-70% marriages happen in a Rahu period. Okay. Typically, Rahu Venus, Rahu Jupiter, yes, they do help. Or Rahu with your seventh slot running, that helps. Planet of marriages is Rahu, hands down. And I'll give credit where it's due. A very good research was done by Bharati Vidya Bhavan, especially K.N. Rao Sahab. So special thanks and appreciation to him.
Mhm.
Another thing which I've seen is a foreign element. People would be very eager to go abroad or at least change the state. Fascination with the foreign things. And one good impact of Rahu Mahadasha is weight loss.
Right.
I have almost always seen people lose weight in Rahu periods and gain weight in Ketu periods.
Right.
Yeah. Because Rahu is the head, he can eat, he can't digest. Usko lagega nahi. Okay. Rahu in the first, very difficult to find a fat man until unless a Jupiter or something is sitting with him. Only Rahu in the first, you can't get fat, eat whatever you want.
Mm.
Okay. That's why I call astrology the super science. आप बना लो कैलोरी कैलेंडर कितना न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट पालना है पाल लो ओपन चैलेंज then by the end of Rahu Mahadasha comes this generalization. Some people ask that okay, whatever Rahu gives, will he take it away when the Rahu Dasha ends? So the answer is no. Okay. ऐसा थोड़ी है कि शादी कराई राहु ने और जाते जाते डिवोर्स हो जाएगा. Okay. या if you are blessed with children तो बच्चे कहीं और चले जाएंगे. Not necessary.
What about property that you make during the Rahu Mahadasha?
Not necessary. Look, that is a philosophical output. Okay.
Okay.
That's the philosophical statement. What happens is, Shraddha, you lose your illusions.
Right.
You
Right.
lose your attachments. Okay.
Right.
You want a promotion. Rahu's passion, pure red-blooded passion. I want this, I want this, I want this, and I want this now.
Mm.
When Rahu is over, especially around Rahu Mangal, it was like, this promotion has made me miserable. It wasn't all that great.
Mm-hmm.
So you are left with that WTF feeling in the end of Rahu. So it's disillusionment.
Yeah.
It is not dissolution, it's disillusion. Now you are not so obsessed with that particular thing.
Mm.
Okay? So you got married, good thing, but it doesn't mean that you will get divorced by the end of Rahu. It is simply, let's say you have a 7th house Rahu, you are very desperate to get married.
Mm.
But once you get married, once Guru comes, you are like, okay, yeah, this is a part of life.
Yeah.
So that's how it goes. Now we will go up with Rahu Mahadasha and all the 9 Antardashas.